Should you draft T. Higgins in fantasy football this year? Well, let's talk about it. Ah, yes, T. Higgins, pushing the boundaries of what wide receiver 2s everywhere can do. T. Higgins is essentially the final form of the wide receiver 2, pushing the boundaries of the boom-bust style of production that these wide receivers are known for to its limits. T. Higgins had a career year last year under quarterback Joe Burrow, who also had a career year throwing for a career high in both touchdowns and passing yards. And this really helped to negate the boom-bust kind of production that T. Higgins may have, that's kind of been T. Higgins' downfall over his career. For example, last year in the 12 games T. Higgins played, he only had 3 games with less than 10 points. However, the year prior, in the 12 games he also played that year, he had 7 games with less than 10 points. And while, yes, Joe Burrow was injured and there was Jake Browning going on, it is important to note that regression from Joe Burrow would probably impact T. Higgins most primarily and foremost because while T. Higgins might be a great white shark in terms of wide receivers, Jamar Chase is a megalodon. And if food starts to get scarce, Jamar Chase is going to eat into T. Higgins' production. And I'm not talking about a big drop from Joe Burrow. If he regresses towards his career averages, it would really just be 5 less touchdowns and around 250 less passing yards. But that is going to probably come out of T. Higgins' workload primarily. And I think that's the most important thing to remember when drafting T. Higgins, is that he is a wide receiver 2 still. And yes, the Bengals defense is still awful, which pains me to my heart. And Joe Burrow is probably still going to have to chuck that thing. But if it comes down to a week where Joe Burrow maybe isn't as productive, it's probably going to be T. Higgins who takes that hit and not Jamar Chase. So you just got to keep it in your mind that, well, yes, last year T. Higgins was a very solid player. He averaged 18.5 points per game. He is still a kind of boom-bust player, because Jamar Chase is probably going to be that consistent wide receiver week in and week out. And despite this, I still do think he's a good pick. He is the best wide receiver 2 probably in the league. The only guy who comes close in my mind is Devontae Adams, because guys like Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith are just too boom-bust with their situations to really be fantasy viable. But at the end of the day, I do want to say that T. Higgins going as wide receiver 14, the 20th overall player, I really do only want to take him at ADP. Guys ahead of him, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Ladd McConkey, they are wide receiver 1s clearly on their team with no competition. I'm taking them ahead of T. Higgins, and because of that, I'm going to give him a B+, just because I really only like him at ADP. He's not a guy I'm reaching for. And because of that, I kind of just want to temper expectations for who he is as a player.